Hi, and welcome. Welcome to this week's online show, Destined for More. And I'm so excited to feature today two incredible women, business experts that I can't wait for you to meet. We have Deirdre Harter and Carmen Reed-Gilkison. Sorry.
It's okay.
um, of Encore Empire, and they are co-founders of Encore Empire, and I cannot wait for you to meet them. But before we get started, if you're new to me, my name is Wesley Reese. I'm a success coach and healer, and I serve midlife female entrepreneurs, really ones that are established but are experiencing that secret stuck that but know that they're meant for more impact, more income, and really ready to put fuel on what they've got coming and the purpose that they're here to make. Today we've got Carmen and Deirdre, and I'm going to introduce you to both of them real quick, and then I want them to share a little bit about their backstory and how they got here today. So we have Carmen Reed-Gilkison. She's a whole person certified coach, and Deirdre Harter, who is a CPA and a business strategist for women over 40 in the online space. They're co-founders of Encore Empire, and they've really come together and put their superpowers together to help mission-oriented women, help them optimize their foundational business strategy so that they can focus positively on positively impacting the world. They've got decades of combined entrepreneurial experience, and they really understand all aspects of the business building in the online marketplace. So combining their two areas of expertise, they really are a powerhouse together and have created a unique, holistic approach to launching and growing sustainable, profitable online businesses. So welcome, Carmen and Deirdre. Happy to have you here. Um, I would love to hear more about your story, how you guys came together, and let's start there.
Sure. So, first of all, I want to thank you for having us. So, I'm going to go a long story, but make it really quick. So, the reason we focus on midlife women is because at midlife, I hit what I call the midlife wall, where it was like, is this all there is? I had an excellent corporate job and I was like, I could check all the boxes, but I woke up one day and it was kind of like, is this even what I still want to do? And through a course of a journey, winding journey, and we'll talk about that with values and validation a little later. But I determined I really wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to do it online because I wanted the freedom and flexibility that working from home provides. And so I had a couple different businesses over a few years. And then I was going to be attending this online event in August of 2020. And that's where I met Deirdre. And when we met, uh, we kind of just stayed connected. Like Deirdre kept going, hey, we should hop on Zoom and chat. We should hop on Zoom and chat. So we did that. And we just kept realizing how aligned everything was. So I don't want to go too far in that story. So I'll let Deirdre take it over from there and tell you her backstory, and then we can go forward.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wesley. We're super excited to be here. At the same time that Carmen was hitting her midlife wall, I was hitting a wall of my own. I was turning 50. And at first, I just chalked it off to some psychological issue about, going from out of my 40s and into my 50s. But then what I realized is that there was a perspective change that I was getting. I am a certified public accountant, and I had been in public accounting practicing in all the areas of taxes and auditing and CFO services, pretty much the whole gamut. And I'd been in that space for over 20 years. And during that time, the last few years I was working, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I heard someone, I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she was talking about being the accidental entrepreneur, that a lot of times we find ourselves in that space. Well, I was a necessary entrepreneur. And by that, I meant that my husband had a medical episode, and he was going to be out of work for weeks, possibly months. We didn't really know. And even though I made a quote unquote good salary in my profession, I knew it wasn't going to be enough. Like, we were going through savings really fast and there wasn't going to be enough, I didn't know how long he was going to be out. So I decided I would start my own business. So I was selling products on Amazon. This was like 14 years ago. It was like wild, wild west. You could sell pretty much anything. And it was great because I was like shopping and buying stuff and selling it and making profits. And it was really fun. And it filled the gap, the financial gap I had. And while I was there, I was meeting amazing entrepreneurs. It was my first introduction to online social media group, Facebook groups. And so I was getting this community of people. They learned I was a CPA and they're like, oh my goodness, we need your help because we know how to buy and sell stuff, but that's where it ends. We don't know the business of business. And I knew I did. So I began coaching. So fast forward a few years to 2020, the Amazon space was getting crazy and difficult to navigate. And I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. But I didn't want to coach in that space if I wasn't doing it. I believe in walking the talk. It's one of my values. Like, if I'm going to coach somebody, I believe I need to, always be up on what's going on. So I went to the same event Carmen did, and I didn't know what was next, but I knew I needed to do something bigger and more. And I needed to use all my experience to help others to get freedom in their lives and in their finances. And so Carmen and I met and we resonated, and Encore Empire was born.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that story. I love how it's come together so beautifully. And you talked about one of your values being able to, walk the talk. And that leads nicely into our topic today, which is the power of values and validation for business success. And I love that you guys are coming to the table with so many great qualities of and expertise that you can really combine those superpowers and help women in a unique way. So let's talk about values and validation. So who would like to start?
I'll start. Yeah. So so Deirdre had her 20 plus years of CPA experience, and I had 20 plus years of marketing and corporate, and I was burnt out. I knew I had a lot of skills. And when I got to that point where I wanted to start a business, I had no idea what I wanted to do, because I could have, and a lot of people do this, they start a business doing the thing that they're leaving corporate from, because they think, well, if it's my own business, then it's going to be fine, but I really didn't want to do that. And so then it was like, well, if I'm going to start from scratch, what am I going to do? And that process was, because I'm someone who I love everything, so it's hard for me to decide, because I'm like, well, I could do this and I could do that, and they all sounded fun. So how am I going to choose? I don't know. One of the things I love is cooking. And so I thought, what would be cool is to open a food truck. And so I went into this whole research about food trucks and all this kind of stuff. And through that research, this is really what got me on the whole values thing, because I have pets at home. And so in my area, you cannot get your home kitchen certified as a commercial kitchen if you have animals living in the house, which makes sense. So that means if I was going to go along this journey, I was going to have to go rent space in a commercial kitchen, which meant that it's going to take me away from my family. And the whole reason I wanted to work from home was to have the flexibility, but also to be able to spend more time with my family, not less. So that was value number one. Family is my number one value. So I realized that I couldn't do that. And I started going down this journey of, well, how do you take what you know and turn it into something else? And really, you have to be careful when you're going to start building something. If someone's out there watching and they haven't built a business and they're thinking about it, make sure you don't build a job that you hate. And the way you do that is by tapping into what matters most to you. So for me, it was family. That was my thing. I wanted to hang out with my family more, not less. So I knew that was not going to work.
Yep. And for me, one of my top values was freedom and flexibility in my schedule and in where I lived. I am near Richmond and Charlottesville in Virginia, and we started out in Charlottesville, and real estate prices kept getting higher and higher and higher. And we had 3 boys, and which means we needed a lot of space. And so, we moved to the suburbs. And then from the suburbs, it was like, then that bit was becoming expensive. And then, and I really wanted to move out into the country because I grew up there. I love the country. I desperately wanted to have chickens, and I'm all about, gardening and homesteading. Like, that's like my hobby. So I knew I needed to be out of, out somewhere else. And I knew that I wanted to have I wanted to build something to where I could move anywhere and it didn't matter. Like I wasn't tied to a town. I didn't have to commute. So that was like one of my big values. So I knew I had to, build something that, as long as I had internet service, that was really the only requirement. So it really did allow us to buy our dream property. And so now we're in the middle of the forest, and we have 5 acres, and we had the chickens, and we have the garden and all that stuff. So that was really a dream come true for me. So I knew that always had to be something that was important to me. The other part was I was so burnt out on deadlines. I cannot even tell you, like, after, I don't know, 15, 16 tax seasons, like I just couldn't do any more, hard pressed deadlines. And so my business had to not have those kinds of deadlines in them. And so that fortunately, it prevented me from going back to what I knew to do. And that was, providing financial consulting and taxes and all that. Cause I really did start to go down that road when I was having that, what do I do next? I thought, well, it's my fallback. It's what I know to do. And I'm really glad that I didn't. And then I listened to my own intuition, because I'm like, I just don't want to go back there. I don't ever want anyone calling me, emailing me, going, freaking out because there's a tax deadline coming up.
Nice. And, a couple of things that resonated with me. And I really believe this is important to note, because for those that are out there listening, Carmen and Deirdre work with new and seasoned entrepreneurs. And I think this is really important to note, because whether you're just starting out as an entrepreneur, yes, knowing your values is really important to set the trajectory of even your decision making. Mm-hmm. And what gets your time, your commitments, and also what you choose to invest in, to make sure that there's that alignment there. But also, as seasoned entrepreneurs, I think it's really even more important, because when you've been doing this for a while, it's easy to get off track if you don't have that North Star that's guiding you. And I believe if you always go back to your values, that is the guiding factor to really help you progress your business along in a way that's in authenticity, that has that alignment with who you are and why you started in the business in the first place. I know when I started it, and I was 27 when I started my first business, so it was quite a couple of decades ago, but it was really, I started because I wanted the time freedom and that flexibility for being able to adjust my schedule for when we started having kids. And it was really important. Plus, I was coming from corporate, and I didn't want them to say, well, you can't have a raise. You're just lucky to have your job, because it was tech downturn. And so it's like, what? And so I wanted that freedom as well. And I think that's really important, for a lot of entrepreneurs, to be able to have those freedoms and to honor that value. Mm-hmm. And then when, Carmen, you were talking about that, your example of validating ideas. And, as entrepreneurs, you can be really multi-passionate. Yeah. And have a lot of ideas, and being able to have that guidance to determine what is that idea that needs more attention, and what are the ones that just need to be put to the side.
That's right.
So tell me, when someone comes to you, whether they're a new entrepreneur or seasoned entrepreneur, what is there a particular theme that you see that they're experiencing that you're able to address in the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, we work with such a wide variety of entrepreneurs, and they are service providers, coaches, and consultants. So they could be, we've got copywriters, accountants, health coaches, spiritual advisors. Excuse me. So they come to us and they are all experiencing something different, but there is usually a common thread. And the common thread typically is that they don't really know who their ideal client is as well as they think they do, and or they are not connecting with that audience on an emotional level, which is what is required for them to say, "Oh my gosh, that person totally gets me and I want to learn more and buy from them," and all that. And that's where the validation piece comes in. So validation, the way that you described it from my story, is one way, validating whether something's going to work for you or not. But when we talk about validation, we're talking about, you start with your values. You're 100% right, Wesley, that those are your guideposts. Those are the things that anchor you. And it doesn't feel good when you get outside of that. And a lot of times we ignore it because we think, well, I need to push through. I'm an entrepreneur. I have to make this thing work. And we ignore those intuitive feelings and that kind of stuff. But you have to check back in and make sure you're not ignoring a value, because then you're going to build something that does not light you up. And then when we talk about things that are if things aren't going exactly the way that you think they are, we need to validate. And for a new business owner, validating means we need to make the first sale. We need to validate that what we're offering is something that our clients want. For an existing business owner, we can validate that our message is resonating with someone or that it is the right someone. So validation comes into play in a whole different variety of manners in how we coach.
Yeah, and the validation piece, Wesley, what you were talking about with the more seasoned entrepreneurs, what we found is the first thought is, oh, I don't need to do any of that. I've already done that, right? And what happens is the marketplace changes, and marketing, especially when you're using social media, it changes rapidly. And so even something that we learned a year ago might actually not be working like it was a year ago. I know that over the last couple of years, Facebook ads is a perfect example. If anyone was relying on those, they were working like gangbusters 2 years ago. Nowadays, super expensive, and it's very difficult to get them to work like you want them to. So there's all these things. And that's why we focus on business strategy, because business strategy, it informs all the different areas. It's not just marketing, and it's not just sales, and it's not just who's your ideal client. There's so many things. And so this foundational strategy is anchored on those values. And then we add validation. We're validating each and every major part of the business. And the multi-passionate entrepreneurs, and almost every seasoned entrepreneur is like, oh, well, I want to do this and this and this, and I can add this on. And you can absolutely have it. We are huge proponents of having multiple income streams, because that is how you get to financial security. It's by diversification. But what happens is we get so caught up in, setting up all these streams that we're not validating properly or enough, and we've got too many going at the same time. And so we're really strung out, and we're really diluting our efforts. And so you're just trying to keep up at that point. And then you're thinking nothing's working, because nothing really is working. And you think it's you, and you think it's your program, but it isn't. It's usually not that. It's almost always something else. And it's usually more than one thing. And that is, I think, the real theme with everything is people come to us go, oh, I need help with this part of my business. But they think it's oh, I need more sales. So I just need someone to, help me with my social media posts. So they think it's one thing, but then when we uncover and realize there's no foundational strategy, that's really the root cause. And then we have to start filling in the gaps of where they're missing pieces.
Yeah, that's really, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's almost like what I like to call a colander. And then, you've got the holes that the water's seeping through the colander, and you're not as effective as you think you should be. And then when you have that somebody that is coming alongside of you, and like you two being able to pair your expertise and see things from that different perspective, you're able to, oh, well, that's the hole that needs to be patched.
Yes.
And I truly believe when you have that guide, that support coming next to you, that's able to really help identify that, it just accelerates your, it gains you more traction and gets that momentum going. And you're right, I call it scattered spaghetti. If you're like trying all these things because you've got all these ideas and nothing's working, it's usually because it's too much. And to be able to have that mirror, so somebody can actually call you on that, is much needed. So I just wanted you guys to share, what you have coming up, and how you're able to help women that may be watching us today that are either new or seasoned, help them in this, and maybe a next step.
Sure. So next week, starting next Tuesday, November 8th, we are hosting another round of our signature marketing methodology workshop. And it is a really fun, action-packed, value-packed workshop where you will end up walking away. It's 5 days, like 30 to 60 minutes a day. And if you can't make it live, you get replays. But you'll walk away with your annual your marketing plan for 2023. So people walk away from that and they're like, oh my gosh, these tools that we give, because we give free tools, we explain how to connect with your audience on an emotional level. We really go into some of the strategy. It's not just a fluff workshop. It is a let's roll up our sleeves and get to work here.
Yeah. And, one of the, marketing seems to be the Achilles heel of everybody, right? Like it's like everyone's like, oh, marketing online. So what we've done is we came up with this framework that we use for ourselves, because we were right there. We're like, this is just, it's going to kill us. We just can't, we're trying to be on every platform, and we're, you're putting different things out there and trying different methods. And then you hear this one person say, oh, your content should be this. And then the next person says, no, it should be that. And so we were, experimenting, because it's what we all do. And I just want to say that whenever you are in that mode, like, just know that it does require experimentation, and don't beat yourself up over, trying different things and going, well, I've tried, 10 different things now, and none of it really seems to work. This is a normal part of the journey. But what we wanted to do is, because we figured it out and we figured out this framework that not only worked and was super effective, but it saved us so much time, and it saved our sanity too, because we're not spending 20 hours a week messing around with content and social media and trying to get everything everywhere. We're able to really, really focus and target, because we did that validation process. And so we really wanted to help other women, because we've heard, I can't tell you how many women have told us this is their problem. This is the problem. Like, it just, like, they just want to quit social media altogether. It gets so bad. But we know how effective it is, when it comes to finding our ideal clients and connecting with them. It was critical during COVID. Now we're coming out of it, so we can do some more in-person things. But I'll tell you, if one of your values is time freedom, then online's the way to go because it saves you so much time because you're not running around all over the place either. Trying to be, I mean, in person is great to do it here and there, but I know personally, I don't want to have to go out and do all my marketing in person. I really love just hopping on Zoom or going live in a video just like this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with you said if one of your values is time freedom, then online marketing is the way to go. If you would have told me that in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I would have been, what? Because I felt like it was my biggest time sucker because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so being able to have that guidance and that support, especially with the framework that you guys have developed, that right there is that time freedom. And I think if whoever's out there listening to this, if you feel like all over the place with your marketing strategy or not sure which direction you should go, I highly recommend attending their marketing methodology workshop, and it just to get that framework going for yourself so that you can utilize it in a more effective way. So thank you both for joining me today. It was a pleasure to have you, Deirdre and Carmen, and I just really am grateful for you coming and sharing your wisdom, your expertise, so that others can understand some of the foundational pieces that are really important for business success. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us. It was wonderful.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks so much. Take care. And if you're tuning in, the sign up for the marketing methodology workshop link will also be in the comments, so you can check it out there. So thanks so much. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.